Working through the storm, Rebecca Hart rubbed her tired eyes and glanced at the clock glowing on her laptop screen. Midnight had come and gone an hour ago, but she barely noticed. Her small apartment in downtown Boston hummed with creative energy as she worked on the most important project of her career. The floor-to-ceiling windows of her modest studio reflected her image back at her. A woman with dark curly hair pulled into a messy ponytail. Wearing an oversized sweater that had seen better days. At 29, Rebecca had built a respectable career as a freelance architect. While her friends from graduate school designed luxury condos and corporate headquarters, she had chosen a different path. Her passion lay in creating beautiful, functional spaces for people who needed them most. Tonight, she was finalizing designs for a nonprofit organization called Home First Initiative, which built affordable housing for families transitioning out of homelessness. A hunger pang interrupts the rumble in her stomach finally broke through her concentration. Rebecca realized she had not eaten since breakfast, surviving on black coffee and sheer determination. She grabbed her phone and scrolled through delivery apps, searching for something still open at this late hour. Most restaurants had closed hours ago, but a small diner called Murphy's Kitchen was still accepting orders. She ordered a turkey club sandwich with sweet potato fries and added an extra generous tip. The weather outside had turned nasty, with rain hammering against her windows and wind howling through the streets below. Whoever delivered her food in these conditions deserved every penny. The knock at the door, 40 minutes later, a firm knock echoed through her apartment. Rebecca saved her work and stretched, her back protesting after hours hunched over her drafting table. She grabbed her wallet and padded to the door in her fuzzy socks, already rehearsing her thank you speech for the brave soul who had ventured out in the storm. She unlocked the deadbolt and swung the door open. Expecting to see a tired delivery driver in a rain-soaked jacket, instead, she found herself staring at a man who looked like he had just stepped out of a business magazine photo shoot. He stood at least 6 feet tall, with sandy brown hair that somehow remained perfectly styled despite the storm. His strong jawline and warm hazel eyes held an intensity that made her breath catch. He wore a navy blue rain jacket over what appeared to be an expensive dress shirt, and his dark jeans looked designer rather than practical. In his hands, he held the familiar Murphy's Kitchen bag. But everything else about him screamed out of place. Questions and curiosity. Rebecca blinked in confusion. "You're not exactly what I expected from a delivery driver," she said, then immediately felt her cheeks warm. "I mean, not that there's a specific look for delivery drivers. I just thought you would be more casual." The man's lips curved into an amused smile that reached his eyes. "A rough night to be working late," he said, his voice deep and smooth. "I figured you could use this," he held up the bag. And the smell of fresh bread and grilled turkey made her stomach growl audibly. "Oh my goodness, yes," Rebecca breathed, reaching for the bag. "Thank you so much for coming out in this weather. The storm is absolutely terrible." As their fingers brushed during the exchange, Rebecca felt an unexpected jolt of electricity. She found herself looking up into those hazel eyes, noticing the way they seemed to study her with genuine interest rather than casual indifference. "An unusual connection. How much do I owe you?" she asked, fumbling with her wallet. "I already tipped through the app, but honestly, this deserves more. Driving in this weather must have been awful." The man studied her for a moment, and Rebecca could swear she saw something shift in his expression. "Do not worry about it," he said finally. "I am just glad I could help someone who is clearly working harder than they should be at this hour." Rebecca tilted her head, puzzled. "That is really kind, but I cannot let you pay for my food. That is not how this works." "Consider it a random act of kindness," he replied, that mysterious smile returning. "Though I have to ask, what is keeping you up this late? Must be something important." Rebecca found herself relaxing despite the unusual situation. There was something about this man that put her at ease. Even though everything about him seemed expensive and out of her league, sharing her passion big deadline, Rebecca explained, gesturing toward her cluttered workspace behind her. "I am an architect, and I am doing pro bono work for an organization that builds affordable housing for homeless families. The presentation is tomorrow morning, and I want it to be perfect." Something flickered across the man's face. Surprise, maybe, or admiration. That is incredible, he said, and the sincerity in his voice made her heart skip. Not many people would sacrifice their sleep for work they are not even getting paid for. Some things are more important than money, Rebecca replied automatically, then realized how that might sound to someone working a delivery job. Not that there is anything wrong with working for money. Everyone needs to pay bills, and you are providing a valuable service. Relax, the man said, chuckling softly. I understand what you meant. It is refreshing to meet someone who thinks that way. An invitation from the storm. Rebecca felt her cheeks warm again. There was something about the way he looked at her, like she was the most interesting person he had encountered in a long time. It was flattering and slightly terrifying all at once. I should let you get back to your other deliveries, she said reluctantly. The food is probably getting cold, and I am sure you have other hungry people waiting. Actually, he said, glancing at his watch, my shift just ended. This was my last delivery. He paused, seeming to consider something. I know this might sound strange, but would you mind if I waited a few minutes? The storm is getting worse, and I would rather not drive in it right now. Becca hesitated for just a fraction of a second. Every safety lesson her parents had ever taught her screamed that inviting a stranger into her apartment was dangerous. But something about this man felt different. Safe. And the storm outside was indeed getting worse. She could hear the wind rattling her windows. Coffee and conversation, of course. She found herself saying, Come in. I can make some coffee if you want something warm. As he stepped into her apartment, Rebecca caught the scent of his cologne, expensive and sophisticated, completely at odds with his supposed profession. But she pushed the thought aside, too tired and too charmed by his unexpected presence to overanalyze the situation. This is beautiful, he said, taking in her space. Rebecca's apartment was her sanctuary, a carefully curated blend of modern minimalism and vintage charm. Her architectural sketches adorned the walls, and plants brought life to every corner. Thank you, she said, suddenly self-conscious about the scattered papers and empty coffee cups that betrayed her workaholic tendencies. It is a bit of a mess right now. I have been living here for 2 years, and it still does not feel quite finished. I think it is perfect, he said, and the way he said it made Rebecca believe he actually meant it. Discovering common ground, she busied herself making coffee, stealing glances at her unexpected guest as he examined her portfolio pieces on the wall. He seemed genuinely interested in her work, asking thoughtful questions about her design process and the stories behind various projects. These housing designs are remarkable, he said, studying her sketches for the Home First initiative, the way you have maximized space while maintaining dignity and comfort. You are not just creating shelter. You are creating homes. Rebecca felt a warm flush of pride. Exactly. That is what I try to explain to everyone. Housing is not just about 4 walls and a roof. It is about creating a space where people can rebuild their lives, where children can do homework, where families can feel safe and valued. You have really thought this through, he said, accepting the coffee mug she offered. How did you get into this kind of work? A growing mystery as they settled onto her couch. Maintaining a respectful distance, Rebecca found herself opening up about her background. She told him about growing up in a working-class neighborhood, watching her single mothers struggle to keep a roof over their heads. She explained how architecture school had opened her eyes to the way good design could improve lives, and how she had made a conscious choice to use her skills for social good rather than corporate profit. The man listened intently, asking insightful questions that showed he understood not just the technical aspects of her work, but the human element behind it. As they talked, Rebecca became increasingly aware that something did not add up. His vocabulary was too refined, his understanding of complex business structures too sophisticated. His hands were too smooth, without the calluses she would expect from someone who delivered food for a living. Can I ask you something? Rebecca said carefully, studying his face. And please do not take this the wrong way, but you do not exactly seem like a typical delivery driver. The man's smile faltered slightly. What does a typical delivery driver seem like? Well, not like someone who just stepped out of a boardroom, Rebecca replied honestly. Your clothes, the way you speak, the way you analyze my architectural concepts like you have a business degree, something does not quite fit. The first crack in the facade for a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Panic, maybe? Or calculation? He set down his coffee mug carefully, as if buying himself time to think. Maybe I am between careers, he said finally, his tone careful. Sometimes life takes unexpected turns, and we end up in places we never imagined. Rebecca sensed there was a story there, layers of complexity beneath his simple explanation. But something in his expression warned her not to push. Not yet. Whatever secret he was carrying, he was not ready to share it. Thunder crashed outside, making them both jump slightly. The storm showed no signs of letting up. Rebecca glanced at the clock and realized they had been talking for over an hour. The ease of their conversation had made time disappear. I should probably let you get back to work, the man said, though he made no move to leave. You said your presentation is in the morning. I should, Rebecca agreed, but she did not want him to go. There was something magnetic about this mysterious stranger, something that made her want to keep talking, to uncover the secrets hidden behind those thoughtful hazel eyes, as if reading her mind. He stood slowly, reluctance evident in his movements. Thank you for the coffee and the conversation, he said. It has been a long time since I have talked to someone so passionate about making the world better. Rebecca walked him to the door, her mind spinning with questions and a strange sense of loss. Drive safely, she said. The storm is still pretty bad out there. He paused in the doorway, turning back to look at her with an expression she could not quite read. Rebecca, he said, and she realized she had never told him her full name. I hope your presentation goes wonderfully tomorrow. Those families are lucky to have someone fighting for them. Before she could ask how he knew her name, he was gone, disappearing into the elevator with a final wave. Rebecca stood in her doorway, her heart racing, wondering what had just happened and why she felt like her life had just shifted in a direction she could not yet understand. Morning after, Rebecca woke to sunlight. Streaming through her windows and the blaring sound of her alarm, she had barely slept, her mind replaying every moment of the previous night's encounter. As she showered and dressed for her presentation, she kept thinking about the mysterious delivery driver who had known her name, without her telling him. She pulled on her best professional outfit, a charcoal gray suit that made her feel confident and capable. Today was too important to let her scattered thoughts interfere. The Home First Initiative presentation would determine whether her designs would actually be built, whether real families would benefit from months of her careful planning and passionate work. A successful presentation, the presentation went better than Rebecca could have hoped. The board members of Home First Initiative leaned forward as she explained her designs, nodding enthusiastically as she walked them through the floor plans and community spaces. She had created something special, a development that would provide not just housing, but dignity and hope. Miss Hart, said the board president, a kind woman named Dorothy Palmer, this is exactly what we have been dreaming of. The way you have designed these units to maximize natural light, the community gardens, the shared spaces that encourage neighbor connections. You have understood our mission perfectly. Rebecca felt tears prick her eyes. Thank you. I wanted to create more than just buildings. I wanted to create a place where families could truly thrive. An unexpected revelation as the meeting concluded. Dorothy pulled Rebecca aside. I have some exciting news. We received an enormous, anonymous donation yesterday, enough to not only build this development, but to expand it significantly. The donor was very specific that they wanted you to lead the entire project design. Rebecca's heart began to race. An anonymous donation? How much are we talking about? $2 million, Dorothy said, her eyes shining. Can you believe it? Someone out there believes in our mission enough to make this kind of investment. Rebecca's mind immediately went to the mysterious man from the night before. It could not be a coincidence. But how would a delivery driver have access to that kind of money? Unless he was not actually a delivery driver at all, the investigation begins back at her apartment. Rebecca did what any curious person in the digital age would do. She started searching. She pulled up the receipt from Murphy's Kitchen on her phone, looking for any clues. The order had been placed through a third-party delivery service, but there was no driver information visible. Then she remembered something. When he had left, he had said her name. Her full name? Rebecca Hart. but she had only given her first name when ordering, and the app only displayed first names for privacy. She sat at her laptop and began searching news articles about large donations to affordable housing initiatives in Boston. After an hour of digging, she found something that made her breath catch. A photo from a charity gala 3 months earlier showed several prominent Boston business people, and there in the background was her mysterious visitor. The caption identified him as Nathan Brooks, CEO of Brooks Global Investments, one of the largest private equity firms in the Northeast. Rebecca's hands trembled as she clicked through more images. It was definitely him. The same hazel eyes, the same strong jawline, the same presence that had filled her small apartment the night before. Anger and confusion. Rebecca felt a surge of emotions. Anger at being deceived, confusion about his motivations, and underneath it all, a painful sense of betrayal. She had opened up to him, shared her passion and her dreams, believing he was someone who understood what it meant to work hard for little recognition. Instead, he was a billionaire playing dress-up, treating her life like some kind of social experiment. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "I need to explain. Please let me. The coffee shop on Newberry Street, 6 p.m. tonight? I understand if you say no." Rebecca stared at the message, her thumb hovering over the delete button. Every rational part of her brain said to ignore it, to move on and forget about Nathan Brooks and his games. But another part of her, the part that had felt that genuine connection the night before, wanted answers. She typed back a single word. "Fine." The confrontation. Rebecca arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early, needing time to compose herself and prepare for the conversation ahead. She chose a corner table with a view of the door. Wanting the advantage of seeing Nathan arrive rather than being surprised by his entrance, he walked in precisely at 6, and Rebecca had to admit he looked different in the daylight. He wore casual clothes, jeans, and a simple sweater. But there was no hiding the confidence in his posture or the quality of everything he wore. When his eyes found hers across the room, she saw relief mixed with apprehension. "Thank you for coming," Nathan said as he approached, not attempting to sit until she gestured to the chair across from her. "I almost did not," Rebecca replied, her voice cold. "I do not appreciate being lied to." Nathan nodded, accepting her anger without deflection. "You have every right to be furious. What I did was wrong, and I owe you a complete explanation." "Start talking," Rebecca said. Crossing her arms, the confession Nathan took a deep breath. His hands wrapped around the coffee cup he had ordered, but not yet touched. "My name really is Nathan Brooks, and I really am the CEO of Brooks Global Investments. What I told you about delivering food was a lie, though the reason behind it was complicated." "Try me," Rebecca said flatly. "For the past 5 years, I have been living in a bubble," Nathan began, his voice quiet but earnest. "Every person I meet wants something from me. Business deals, investments, donations, connections. I stopped being able to tell who genuinely liked me and who just saw dollar signs. My therapist suggested I needed to experience life outside my usual circles, to remember what authentic human connection felt like." Rebecca's expression remained skeptical, but she did not interrupt. "So I made a foolish decision," Nathan continued. "I borrowed a delivery uniform from one of my company's food service subsidiaries and took a few deliveries, thinking I could experience what it was like to be anonymous for a few hours. Your order was supposed to be my last one before I gave up on the whole stupid idea." "Understanding and hurt, but then I knocked on your door," Nathan said, finally meeting her eyes, "and I saw your work spread across your desk. I saw someone pouring her heart into a project that would not make her rich or famous, but would genuinely help people. When you invited me in and started talking about your passion for creating dignified housing, I forgot about my experiment. I just wanted to keep listening to you talk." Rebecca felt her anger wavering but held firm. "So you thought it was okay to keep lying to me? To let me share my dreams and struggles with someone who was not being honest about who he was?" "No," Nathan said firmly. "It was not okay. With every minute that passed, I knew I should tell you the truth, but I was terrified. Terrified that the moment you knew who I really was, you would stop seeing me as a person and start seeing me as a resource. That you would want something from me or worse, that you would shut down completely. Instead, you took away my choice, Rebecca said, her voice breaking slightly. You decided for me how I would react. You turned our entire conversation into a performance. The weight of loneliness, Nathan's face crumpled with genuine remorse. You are absolutely right. I was selfish and thoughtless. But Rebecca, I need you to understand something. That conversation we had, the way I felt talking to you, that was the most real I have felt in years. Every word of admiration for your work was genuine. Every question I asked came from authentic curiosity. The only lie was my name and my job. That is not a small lie, Nathan, Rebecca said, but her tone had softened slightly. I know. He ran his hands through his hair, disturbing the careful styling. After I left your apartment, I could not stop thinking about you. About your passion, your integrity, your belief that some things matter more than money. I wanted to support your work, not because I felt guilty about lying, but because what you are doing deserves support. Rebecca leaned back in her chair, studying his face. The $2 million donation. That was you? Nathan nodded. I called the Home First Initiative Board president and made it anonymous because I did not want you to feel obligated to me. I wanted to help the project because it deserves to succeed, not because I was trying to buy your forgiveness. A glimpse of vulnerability. Do you have any idea how condescending that sounds? Rebecca asked, though her voice lacked its earlier sharpness. A billionaire swooping in to save the poor architect's little project? That is not how I see it at all, Nathan said urgently, leaning forward. Rebecca, your designs are brilliant. They would deserve funding, whether I had met you or not. The only difference is that meeting you made me aware of the project. I've spent years making money for people who already have too much. Supporting work like yours makes me feel like my wealth might actually mean something. Rebecca was quiet for a long moment, processing everything he had said. Part of her wanted to stay angry, to maintain the righteous indignation that protected her. From the vulnerability of admitting she had felt something real during their conversation, but another part of her recognized the genuine pain in Nathan's expression, the loneliness that came through in every word. Testing the waters if you had approached me as yourself, Rebecca said finally. As Nathan Brooks, billionaire CEO, what would you have said? Nathan considered the question seriously. Honestly, I probably would not have approached you at all. I would have assumed you would want something from me, or that you would put on a performance to impress me. I have become very good at avoiding genuine connection because it has hurt me too many times. So instead, you tricked me into having a genuine connection with you, Rebecca said. Yes, Nathan admitted, and I see now how messed up that was. I was so focused on protecting myself from being used that I used you instead. I turned you into an experiment without your consent, and that was wrong no matter what my intentions were. Rebecca appreciated his honesty, even as it complicated her feelings further. I need you to understand something, Nathan. I have worked incredibly hard to build a career where I am valued for my skills and my integrity. When you lied to me, even with good intentions, it made me feel like I was just a case study. Like I was not important enough to deserve the truth. It's a genuine apology. You were never a case study, Nathan said with intensity. You were the first person in years who made me remember why I wanted to build things in the first place. Not to accumulate wealth, but to create something meaningful. Talking to you about your housing designs reminded me that business could be about more than profit margins. Rebecca felt something shift in her chest. What do you want from me, Nathan? He met her eyes directly. A chance. Not forgiveness, because I know that has to be earned. Just a chance to show you that the person you talked to last night, the one who was genuinely interested in your work, in your passion, that person is real. He just happens to also be a CEO who made a terrible decision about how to meet you. And what would this chance look like? Rebecca asked carefully. Let me take you to dinner, Nathan said. Not at some 5-star restaurant where everyone knows my name. Somewhere normal. Let me show you that I can be authentic even when you know the truth about who I am. If after that you decide you never want to see me again, I will respect that completely. A calculated risk. Rebecca studied his face, looking for any sign of manipulation or ulterior motive. All she saw was vulnerability and hope. against her better judgment, had gradually isolated him. Surrounding him with people who wanted things rather than people who wanted to know him, Rebecca found herself softening despite her determination to stay guarded. There was something genuine in the way Nathan spoke about his loneliness, something that resonated with her own experiences of feeling misunderstood and undervalued. "Can I ask you something?" Nathan said as they prepared to leave. "Why affordable housing? What made you choose that path instead of the more lucrative options?" Rebecca smiled. "Because everyone deserves a place to call home. Because I watched my mother work 3 jobs to keep us housed. I saw how the constant stress of housing insecurity affected every aspect of our lives. Because good design should not be a luxury reserved for the wealthy. It should be a right for everyone." "That is beautiful," Nathan said, and the admiration in his voice sounded completely authentic. "The world needs more people like you, Rebecca Hart." A second chance as they stood outside the coffee shop, the evening air cooling around them. Nathan pulled out his phone. "Can I get your actual number, so I can plan this dinner properly?" Rebecca hesitated for just a moment before rattling off her digits. "But Nathan, I meant what I said. One chance. Do not make me regret this." "I will not," he promised. "I will prove to you that there is a version of me worth knowing, even with all the complications that come with who I am." Rebecca watched him walk away, her emotions a tangled mess of hope and caution. She had been hurt by his deception, but she could not deny the connection she had felt. Maybe, just maybe, something real could grow from such a flawed beginning. Her phone buzzed with a text as she turned toward home. "Thank you for giving me a chance. I know I do not deserve it." "Sleep well," Rebecca typed back. "You are right. You do not deserve it. Do not waste it." She could almost see his smile as he read her message. Despite everything, despite the anger and hurt and confusion, Rebecca found herself looking forward to their dinner. Maybe she was being foolish. Maybe she was setting herself up for more heartbreak. But something told her that Nathan Brooks might be worth the risk. Building trust over the next week. Nathan proved that he was serious about earning Rebecca's trust. He did not bombard her with expensive gifts or grand gestures. Instead, he sent simple text messages asking about her day, sharing articles about affordable housing initiatives, and making her laugh with dry observations about the absurdities of corporate life. When he finally asked her to dinner, he chose a small Italian restaurant in the North End, the kind of place where the owner knew every customer's name and the pasta was made fresh daily. Rebecca arrived to find Nathan already seated at a corner table, looking nervous in a way that billionaire CEOs probably did not often look. "Hi," he said, standing as she approached. "You look beautiful." Rebecca had chosen a simple navy dress, comfortable but elegant. "Thank you. You look nervous." "I am terrified," Nathan admitted with a self-deprecating laugh. "I feel like I am being evaluated for the most important position of my life." "You are," Rebecca said, but she smiled to take the edge off her words. "So you better make this good." The real Nathan dinner was surprisingly easy. Nathan had been true to his word, choosing a restaurant with excellent food but no pretension. They talked about everything from their childhoods to their dreams for the future. Nathan told stories about his early struggles building his company, the failed ventures and near bankruptcies that had preceded his success. Rebecca shared memories of growing up in a cramped apartment with her mother, learning to find beauty in small spaces. "You know what strikes me most about you?" Nathan said as they shared tiramisu for dessert. "You see possibility where other people see limitations. Those housing designs you showed me, they turn constraints into opportunities. Small spaces become cozy. Limited budgets become creative challenges. You make the impossible feel achievable." Rebecca felt warmth spread through her chest. "That is one of the nicest things anyone has ever said about my work." "I mean every word," Nathan said seriously. "Rebecca, you are changing lives with what you do. Not in some abstract future way, but concretely and immediately. The families who will live in the homes you design will be safer, happier, more stable because of your vision." Vulnerability and connection as they walked through the North End after dinner, the old neighborhood glowing with streetlights and history. Rebecca found herself telling Nathan things she rarely shared. She talked about her fear that she was not doing enough, that her designs were too small to make a real difference. She confessed her imposter syndrome, the constant worry that she was not talented enough or smart enough to deserve the opportunities she had earned. Nathan listened, without interrupting, without trying to fix her insecurities or dismiss her fears. When she finally fell silent, he said quietly, "I understand that more than you know. Every day I wake up wondering if I am doing enough with the resources I have. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. But what does it actually mean? Am I making the world better or just richer for people who do not need it?" "Is that why you made the donation?" Rebecca asked. "To feel like your money meant something?" "Partly," Nathan admitted. "But mostly because your work deserves support. Because those families deserve decent housing. Because I met someone who made me want to be better than I have been." They stopped walking, standing beneath an old street lamp that cast golden light across Nathan's face. Rebecca saw the vulnerability there, a genuine desire to connect with another person beyond the barriers of wealth and status. "Nathan," she said softly, "I am still scared of getting hurt. Of finding out that this version of you is just another performance." "I am scared too," Nathan replied. "Scared that you will never fully trust me because of how we met. Scared that I will mess this up somehow. But I would rather be scared and trying than safe and alone." Rebecca made a decision in that moment, letting go of some of her protective anger and allowing herself to hope. "Then let us try. Slowly. Honestly. No more secrets." "No more secrets," Nathan agreed. And when he reached for her hand, she let him take it. A new partnership. 3 months passed in a blur of shared meals, long conversations, and growing trust. Nathan became a regular volunteer at the Home First Initiative construction site, showing up in work boots and old jeans to help frame walls and install fixtures. Rebecca watched him transform from a nervous amateur to someone who understood the pride of building something with his own hands. The housing development began to take shape, rising from empty lots into the vision Rebecca had designed. 8 family units, each with its own small yard, clustered around a central community space with gardens and play equipment. Nathan had quietly arranged for additional funding to include a community center with job, training resources, and childcare facilities. "We were doing it again," Rebecca said one Saturday afternoon, as they painted walls in what would become the community center kitchen. "Doing what?" Nathan asked, streaks of pale yellow paint decorating his forearms. "Using your money to solve problems," Rebecca replied, but her tone was affectionate rather than critical. The child care center was not in the original plans. Learning to accept help, Nathan set down his paint roller and turned to face her. "I have been thinking about that. About how you always push back when I try to contribute resources. Can I ask why it bothers you so much?" Rebecca considered the question seriously. "Because I want to know that what we are building together is not just about your money. I need to believe that the connection we have is not contingent on your ability to fund projects." Rebecca, Nathan said gently, "My money is a tool, just like your architectural skills are a tool. You do not hesitate to use your talents to help people. Why should I hesitate to use my resources the same way?" "Because talent is something you earn," Rebecca said. "Money can be inherited, stolen, or acquired through exploitation. They are not the same thing." Nathan nodded thoughtfully. "You are right that they are not the same. But in my case, every dollar I have came from years of work. Yes, I had advantages and opportunities that many people do not get, but I also worked 100-hour weeks for a decade, sacrificed relationships and health to build something successful. That money represents my labor, just like your designs represent yours." A shift in perspective. Rebecca had never thought about it that way before. She had been so focused on protecting her independence and integrity that she had not considered how her resistance might make Nathan feel diminished or unwelcome. "I am sorry," she said quietly. "I have been treating your contributions like they are somehow tainted. That was not fair." "You were protecting yourself," Nathan replied, pulling her into a paint-stained hug. "After the way we met, you had every reason to be cautious. But Rebecca, I hope you are starting to understand that I am not trying to buy your affection or control your projects. I genuinely want to support work that matters, and your work matters more than anything I've encountered in years." Rebecca rested her head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "My mother wants to meet you," she said suddenly. She felt Nathan's body tense slightly. "Really? What have you told her about me?" "Everything," Rebecca admitted. "Including the part where you pretended to be a delivery driver and lied to me for an entire evening?" Nathan groaned. "So she hates me already." "Great, actually," Rebecca said, pulling back to look at his face. She said, "Any man who would go to such lengths to have a genuine conversation must be pretty lonely." She felt sorry for you. Meeting the family. Diana Hart lived in a modest house in Dorchester, the same neighborhood where Rebecca had grown up. She answered the door, wearing an apron dusted with flour, her dark hair streaked with gray, and her eyes sharp with maternal assessment. "You must be Nathan," she said, looking him up and down. "Come in. I hope you like pot roast, because I made enough to feed an army." Nathan shot Rebecca a nervous glance before following Diana into the warm, cluttered kitchen. The house smelled like home cooking and lemon polish, and every surface displayed photos of Rebecca at various ages. "It's Mrs. Hart," Nathan began, but Diana cut him off. "Call me Diana, and before we eat, I want to have a conversation with you, young man." She pointed to a chair at the kitchen table. "Sit." Nathan sat obediently, while Rebecca tried not to laugh at seeing a billionaire CEO take orders from her 5'2" mother. Diana poured 3 glasses of iced tea and settled across from Nathan with the air of a prosecutor beginning cross-examination. "My daughter tells me you lied to her," Diana said without preamble. "That you pretended to be someone you were not in order to have a genuine conversation. Is that accurate?" "Yes, ma'am," Nathan said. "It was wrong, and I have been working to earn back her trust ever since." "Why did you do it?" Diana asked, her tone not unkind but firm. Nathan took a deep breath. "Because I was lonely and stupid. Because I convinced myself that no one could see me as a regular person once they knew about my wealth. Because I was tired of relationships that felt transactional." A mother's wisdom. Diana nodded slowly, sipping her tea. "Loneliness makes people do foolish things. I understand that. But what I need to know is whether you understand how much courage it took for Rebecca to let you back into her life after that betrayal." "I think about it every day," Nathan said quietly, his eyes finding Rebecca's across the table. "She gave me something I did not deserve, a second chance. I will spend as long as it takes proving I was worth the risk." Diana studied him for another long moment before her stern expression cracked into a smile. "Good answer. Now come, help me set the table. Rebecca, go pick some tomatoes from the garden for the salad." As Rebecca headed to the backyard, she heard her mother's voice through the open window. "You really care about her, do not you? This is not some rich man's hobby. Diana," Nathan's voice was serious, "your daughter is the most remarkable person I have ever met. She makes me want to be better than I am. She makes me believe that the work I do can actually matter. I am absolutely crazy about her." Rebecca felt tears prick her eyes as she picked tomatoes, warmth spreading through her chest. For the first time since meeting Nathan, she allowed herself to believe completely that this was real. The crisis 2 weeks later, disaster struck. A national news outlet published an expose about Brooks Global Investments, alleging that several of Nathan's portfolio companies had engaged in predatory lending practices, targeting low-income communities. The article specifically mentioned that Nathan had recently become involved with affordable housing initiatives, questioning whether his involvement was genuine charity or strategic image management. Rebecca read the article on her phone during lunch break at the construction site, her stomach sinking with each paragraph. The journalist had done extensive research, documenting cases where companies associated with Nathan's firm had displaced families through aggressive foreclosure practices. When Nathan called that afternoon, his voice was strained. "Have you seen it?" "Yes," Rebecca said, her mind racing. "Nathan, tell me it is not true. Tell me those companies were not part of your portfolio." The silence on the other end of the line was answer enough. "They were," Nathan finally said. "3 of them, acquired as part of a larger investment package 5 years ago." "Rebecca, I swear I did not know about the predatory practices. The companies were managed independently, and I was not involved in day-to-day operations." "Trust on trial, but you profited from them," Rebecca said, her voice hollow. Families lost their homes, and you made money from it. Yes, Nathan said, the word heavy with shame. As soon as I found out, I started divesting from those companies. That process began 4 months ago, but it takes time to unwind complex investments without causing additional harm to employees and communities. Rebecca felt like the ground was shifting beneath her feet. 4 months ago. That was before we met. Yes, Rebecca. You have to believe me. I have been working to clean up my portfolio, to ensure that every company I am invested in meets ethical standards. Meeting you did not start that process, but it did accelerate it. You made me look harder at the human cost of my business decisions. I need time to think, Rebecca said, her voice shaking. This is exactly what I was afraid of, Nathan. That your money came from hurting the exact people I am trying to help. I understand, Nathan said quietly. Take all the time you need. But please know that I never intended to profit from other people's suffering. I was not paying close enough attention, and that is on me. I am trying to do better. Choice Rebecca spent a sleepless night wrestling with her conscience. Part of her wanted to walk away, to protect herself from the complications of Nathan's world. But another part remembered the genuine remorse in his voice, the concrete actions he had already taken to address the problem. She called her mother in the early morning hours. Diana listened to the whole story without interrupting, then said simply, "Baby girl, the question is not whether he made mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. The question is what he is doing to make them right. But Mom, families lost their homes. People I am trying to help were hurt by companies he owned. And he is trying to fix that," Diana replied. The article said he has been divesting for months, that he has set up a fund to help people affected by those foreclosure practices. Actions speak louder than past mistakes, Rebecca. What do his current actions tell you? Making amends, Rebecca showed up at Nathan's office the next morning, unannounced. His assistant tried to stop her, but Nathan appeared in his doorway, looking like he had not slept in days. Please come in. His office was exactly what she expected. Glass and steel overlooking the city. Expensive furniture and abstract art. But what caught her attention was the stack of folders on his desk, each labeled with the name of a displaced family. "What is this?" she asked. Nathan ran his hands through his hair, a gesture she had come to recognize as his tell when he was stressed. "I hired a team to identify every family affected by those foreclosure practices. We are reaching out to each one, offering compensation and assistance. Some want their homes back. Some want financial settlements. Some just want an apology. We are working to give each family what they need to recover." Rebecca picked up one of the folders, reading through the careful documentation of a family's loss and the plan for making amends. "This must be costing you millions." "It does not matter what it costs," Nathan said firmly. "These people were hurt by companies I owned, even if I did not know what was happening. That makes me responsible for making it right." A deeper understanding, Rebecca looked up at him, seeing the exhaustion and determination in his face. "Why did you not tell me about this earlier?" "When the article came out?" "Because I wanted you to make your own decision about me," Nathan said. "Not based on what I was doing to fix my mistakes, but based on whether you believed I was genuinely sorry. I did not want you to feel pressured to forgive me because of some grand gesture." Rebecca felt something shift in her chest, the last of her protective walls crumbling. This was not a performance or a manipulation. This was a man genuinely trying to do better. Not for applause or recognition, but because it was the right thing to do. "Nathan," she said softly, "I believe you. I believe that you are trying to be better. And I want to help." His eyes widened. "Help how?" "I know people in the affordable housing community," Rebecca said. "Organizations that could use the resources you are setting aside for these families. Let me connect you with them. Help make sure the compensation actually addresses their needs, rather than just throwing money at the problem." Nathan moved around his desk and pulled her into his arms. "You are incredible. Even when I give you every reason to walk away, you show up and offer to help." "That is because I love you, you idiot," Rebecca said, the words spilling out before she could stop them. Nathan pulled back to look at her face, wonder spreading across his features. "You love me?" "Unfortunately, yes," Rebecca said with a shaky laugh. Even though you are complicated and your wealth makes everything messy and you started our relationship with a lie, I love you anyway. A declaration, Rebecca Hart, Nathan said, cupping her face in his hands. I have been in love with you since the night you invited a stranger in from a storm and talked about creating homes instead of just buildings. You make me want to be worthy of you. You make me believe that wealth can be used to heal instead of harm. You make me better. He kissed her then, and Rebecca felt all her doubts and fears dissolve. This was real. Complicated and imperfect and requiring constant work. But real. 6 months later, Rebecca stood at the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the completed Home First Initiative development. Looking out at the families who would soon move into their new homes, Nathan stood beside her, one arm around her waist, as Dorothy Palmer gave a speech about the project's success. And none of this would have been possible, Dorothy said, without the vision and dedication of our lead architect, Rebecca Hart, and the generous support of our newest board member, Nathan Brooks. The crowd applauded, and Rebecca felt tears of joy and pride streaming down her face. The buildings before her were exactly what she had imagined, spaces that offered dignity and hope to families who needed both. After the ceremony, a young mother approached them, a toddler on her hip. Miss Hart, I just wanted to say thank you. Your design, the way the bedrooms have windows that let in morning light, the way the kitchen opens to the living space so I can watch my baby while I cook. You thought of everything. This is not just a house. It is a real home. Rebecca hugged the woman, overcome with emotion. You are so welcome. I hope you and your family are very happy here. As the woman walked away, Nathan squeezed Rebecca's hand. This is what it is all about. This moment right here,